Welcome back to the Fuel Your Legacy podcast. Each week, we expose the faulty foundational mindsets of the past and rebuild a newer, stronger foundation essential in creating your meaningful legacy. We've got a lot of work to do, so let's get started. As much as you like this podcast, I'm certain that you're going to love the book that I just released on Amazon, Fuel Your Legacy, The 9 Pillars to Build a Meaningful Legacy. I wrote this to share with you the experiences that I had while I was identifying my identity, how I began to create my meaningful legacy, and how you can create yours. You're going to find this book on Kindle, Amazon, and as always on my website, samknickerbocker.com. Welcome back to the Fuel Your Legacy show. And today we have an incredible guest on. I'm super excited to have him share his story with you, where he's come from, the things he's accomplished in life. And his name is Parham Parastaran. And man, his like my last name. Sometimes I struggle with other people's last names. But he's an Iranian-American entrepreneur, refugee, came here, really likes to discuss mental health issues and how they relate to the business community. And how we can help, because there's a lot of people who suffer from it and struggle from it. And a lot of people, that's what drives them into being a business owner, and they don't understand themselves. And so then when they reach the level of success, struggle there. So his story a little bit, he was a child in the Iranian Revolution, came here, he built a multi-million-dollar car business, had lots of locations in Illinois, 16 locations, and then kind of his world turned upside down due to some problems he's going to share with us. But just know that no matter what level of success, a lot of people think money's going to solve the problem. Money's not the answer. And it's important to recognize what the answer really is so you can get it before you get the money. And then the money will actually be a lot more meaningful. So I'm super grateful for you, Parham, for coming on. Go ahead and share with us your story at the beginning, where you came from, and how you ended up where you are today in the psychology field after going through such a big business explosion.
You bet, and you made a really good point, and hopefully later we'll touch on it, is that money does not make you happy, and hopefully you have your things resolved prior to that, because no matter how much money you make, you're never going to be happy if you don't have that other stuff figured out. But anyway, we'll get to that. So yes, my name is Parham. I'm almost 50 years old. I was born in Iran. I was born in Iran in 1971. During the 70s, Iran was a ally of the United States. It was really up and coming. It was very modern. It was very westernized, and a fairly good place to be. My dad came here when I was 1 year old to do his engineering degree, and went to the University of Oklahoma State, the Sooners. So I came, lived in Stillwater from the time I was 1 to 5, and then my dad got his degree. At the age of 5, I went back to Iran, started school there. So basically I was, I learned English and Farsi, so I was bilingual. So started doing school there, everything seemingly normal. And then in 1979, 78 starts the rubbles of a revolution starting to happen. My family was not Muslim. We were Baha'is. I was Baha'i by birth. And like other countries that this has happened with, that the revolution really wasn't a revolution of politics. It was a revolution of religious. It was a religious revolution. So the Islamic State basically came in. The Ayatollah that you're probably too young, Sam, but a lot of people would know the Ayatollah Khomeini. Basically was exiled, came from France, and literally what seemed to be overnight, the country went from the Shah, who all of a sudden escapes, to the Islamic Revolution, and of course what everybody American knows is the hostage crisis, the 400 plus days that Americans were held hostage in Iran at the embassy. So I was right in Iran during all this time, and so because we were Baha'is, anybody that basically wasn't Muslim and following it was being persecuted, and especially if you were Western educated like my father was. My father was very successful at a young age. As soon as he came back from America, started running and being a president of a factory. We lived a pretty nice life. And literally one day I'm in school. I come home. My dad is gone. My mom is basically just telling us that, hey, we're leaving the country. Where's dad? He's left. They tried to assassinate him. basically his employees. That's what revolutions do. They don't make much sense. So anyway, my dad flees to escape harm and makes arrangements for us to leave a few days later, literally without anything but 8 pieces of luggage. Our bank accounts get frozen, very little money, but we get a flight that's supposed to leave out of Tehran, which is the capital of Iran. Simultaneously, while all this crazy revolution was happening, Iran was also in a 10-year war with Iraq, our neighbors. So things are being bombed everywhere. We're seeing war everywhere. So, just as a child, seeing fighting and wars and revolution really wasn't that unordinary. We get to the day before we're supposed to fly out and leave Iran, go to London, and then get exile and find our way to America. The airport gets bombed. Long story short, 3 days it takes us to escape out of Iran. And with planes, trains, automobile, finally get out of Iran into Pakistan. It was a horrific sort of experience with just me, my mom, and my brother. I was a 9-year-old kid at the time, 4th grader. And we make our way out. Again, fast forward a little bit, we finally get political asylum from the United States, a couple more transitions, and we end up in California, and I'm here as a 4th grader. So I get to America as a 4th grader. I'm an immigrant from Iran. American workers are being held hostage in Iran. So you can imagine the Iranians weren't very much liked, to say the least. And on top of it, as a 9-year-old, I just fled like literally 1 week ago I'm in Iran, and next week I'm in 4th grade in California. Get to California, go to school for a little bit. 3 months later, we move to Joliet. A few months later, move here. I ended up moving from the time I was 4th grade to I was a freshman 11 different times, different houses, just all over the place, trying to figure our way through. While all this was going on, a couple of backdrop stories. One is we're just poor, living in apartments, but, we were just poor. My dad working odd-end jobs. My mom worked at McDonald's, Bob Evans, fast food places. My dad did handyman work. He worked at a convenience store, drove a bus, drove a truck, whatever job you can get, they took, and kind of just worked our way through, which is one reason we were moving. The other backdrop of all this was I had sort of a secret, and that was maybe a blessing that I left from Iran, that while I was in Iran for the past year as I left, I was being sexually abused by my older cousin, my older male cousin. And this went on for roughly a year. So sort of leaving Iran was sort of a blessing from that sense, because I got to at least leave that whole horrific idea behind. But that was something I never discussed, never told anybody, never told my parents, never told a single soul. It was just my unique secret. So get to America, and of course, I don't know if it was unique to me, but I just tried to assimilate as fast as I possibly could. I just wanted to be just like an American, so I would lie about where I was from. Instead of saying we were from Iran, I would say I was from Persia. Sometimes people would be like, "Oh, are you Greek?" I'd be like, "Yes." "Are you Italian?" I'd say, "Yes." Very ashamed of where I was from, very ashamed of being an immigrant, and very ashamed of being poor. And those things at an early age started really fueling my sort of desire to be something. The first ability that I had to be something was, obviously as a kid, I'm not going to go get a job and become rich, but my first ability to be something was to be popular and to be liked. So I quickly realized that I was really good at sports. So sports really, really helped me. I learned all the American sports. I was a basketball, obviously a soccer player in Iran, but I came here, I quickly learned how to play basketball, football. Next thing you know, I'm the quarterback of my high school team, playing tennis, at a very high level. And ultimately got really good at sports, and that was my first sort of win and first way that I could sort of ward off the blemish of being this this immigrant, poor kid from Iran, right? And so I started getting my self-esteem a little bit boosted falsely by these accolades of being good at sports. The other part was I was popular, and I realized it, and I really milked it. Meaning I really made it a goal to be popular. And I remember I moved from school to school, so I did learn how to make friends really quickly, but I also learned how to be a great marketer and how to market myself. And so I honestly manipulated the system to some extent of learning how to be popular, making friends with all the groups and being funny and basically doing all those things that people like about you. Next thing you know, I'm in high school, I'm homecoming king, I'm prom king. And so here I am from that early stage, with, accomplishments in sports, accomplishments in popularity, all of these things boosting my self-esteem and making me feel good about myself. But more importantly, making me not think about this other poor immigrant self that I had, this abused child that I had. So sort of suppressed all those things with being popular, being good at sports. I get to college, and I don't really have a very good start to college. I flunk out the first year at the University of Illinois. Eventually make my way back. And because of my tennis ability and because I was a tennis pro, I started teaching tennis. So that helped me through college. I had to pay for my college anyway. So I taught tennis, like crazy amounts of tennis. By the time I was a senior, graduating high school, I had like $60,000, $70,000 saved up. I'd go into business. I used this money to go into business. And that was kind of when the first part of the business thing started. And one of the ways, actually, I should just back up a second, is that I got into this, went to the automotive business and used my money to do that, is that I actually wanted to be a tennis pro. I was very idealistic. I used to have a great tennis following. I coached 2 state championship teams, 2 girls state championships in Champaign that won state 2 years in a row. Those were girls that I started when they were little kids, teaching them tennis. And I went to a bank. I wanted to have a tennis center. I wanted to have my own little teaching academy. And because I was passionate about teaching these kids and I was very idealistic about life, I didn't care about money at this time. And I just wanted to do good for the world and do good for these kids. I go to a bank. Basically, the bank laughs at me, coming here for a loan. This 21-year-old kid and trying to borrow money to do this tennis center. And it kind of pissed me off. It really pissed me off. And it was an important part, and I talk about this in my book, but it was an important part of one of the first times I got really pissed off. When I first came from Iran, I didn't get pissed off, but I knew what I had to do was to be popular and be good at sports. But it wasn't sort of I'm doing the tennis and being popular because I'm pissed. I was doing it as a need to catapult myself. This one was I was pissed. But the piss was it reinvited my shame of being an Iranian, and it sort of retouched those being poor and being essentially being dissed by a banker and disrespected, okay? Which, again, looking back as a 50-year-old, it's an interesting conversation. So then I decide, okay, screw the tennis center. That doesn't make money anyway. I'm going to go do something that makes money. I'm not going to go into the crazy detail, but basically I buy into a shop. I take one shop, I turn it into 2 shops. I take 2 shops, turn it into 3 shops. And next thing you know, within 6 years, I had 10 stores. Now I'm 26 years old, 27 years old. I own 10 stores. I'm this now up and coming businessman in town, this kid that's, look, 1 store, 2 stores, the numbers were looking great. All I cared about was what people thought of me. It was right back to being in high school. I wasn't making any money in these businesses. I wasn't really doing that great, but I was being able to put up a number and say, yep, I did my 8th store. Yep, I did my 9th store. Yep, I did my 10th store. But the reality was the stores from a business standpoint were not very good structurally. The foundation was poor. They didn't really make any money, but banks were loaning me money because they thought I was great. Like I said, I was a good salesman and I could tell a good story, and everything was seeming going well, especially from the outside. On the underneath, I started doing drugs. I always did marijuana and things like that, but I got into cocaine, drinking, and next thing you know, while I'm doing these 10 stores and while I'm running these stores, I have a $1,500, $2,000 a week cocaine. And it wasn't like I'm going out to a bar with my friends and doing drugs and drinking. I would drink at a bar with friends, and then I would go home, lock myself in a bathroom, lock myself in a house, lock myself in a hotel, and for 3 days I would just bitch. It wasn't a fun type of a cocaine use. It was a really dark sort of a period. It got worse and just got worse and got worse. Business starts falling apart. At the same time, I kind of get married and also went to grad school, believe it or not, during all this time and got my MBA. But things were just falling apart. I mean, because the foundation was so messed up that little by little, it was starting to show up. It was starting to show up, okay? All of my falsities, all of my reasons that I did everything, being angry at a banker, being angry for being abused, being mad that I moved 11 times, so I want to be really popular. All of these facades that I had put together started really coming up, and ultimately with a massive depression. And I healed and sort of I medicated the depression with this massive cocaine habit and this really dark period of my life. I did somehow manage to get married during this period and even had a kid, and still was sort of playing a game. I did my business, and then I did this 3 days I would go escape. Pretend I was on a business trip, but I'd be like 1 mile down from my house and locked up in a hotel, and my wife would think I'm in St. Louis on a business trip, And this is just the life that I lived. But then I would come back, run my business. But the business, again, started deteriorating. And in fact, I went from 10 stores, and I had to get rid of 7 stores and went back down to 3 stores because of so much financial troubles I had. Along the same time, friends, family that cared about me said, you need to get help. I dabbled in some help, but then one day I landed in this office of a guy named Dr. Jekyll, which is his actual name. And he's into psychoanalysis. And why psychoanalysis started appealing to me was, at the end of the day, I had to learn why I did things. I wasn't the type of guy that was going to go to a AA and just will myself, I'm never going to do this again. I'm never going to do cocaine again. I'm never going to drink again. I'm never going to do that again. Because then I didn't really fix why I was doing it. It would have been temporary, or just been out of sheer will. And that's not the style of learning that I do. So I start doing this psychoanalysis, and then, it's on year 2, year 3. And today at 240, I go see him, and it will be 17 years I've been doing this. Twice a week, once a week, I go and do psychoanalysis and study myself. And so over a period of time, I started getting healthier and healthier and healthier. Then my business went back, like I said, I went back down to 3 stores, and then I went back to 17 stores. Very healthy then. My mind was great, body was great, family was great. Really got my shit together with the therapy. And about 7 years ago, I started writing a book. So then during this time, I started writing a book called Perfect Pain. And talk about legacy. The business stuff of it means nothing. And this book became everything I cared about, because I wanted to tell the story. And the reason it's called Perfect Pain is that I want to tell the story about all the stuff that happened to me, but I really, with a positive spin, in the sense that it was perfect. Like, I couldn't be the same person I am today. I wouldn't be talking to you today had I not experienced the drugs, the abuse, the refugee, being an immigrant, being poor. If I had not experienced all of those things, and luckily enough had help to actually resolve these conflicts that I had, I wouldn't be here. And so that's what that book is about. That's why I started writing that book. There was one more thing. Well, that was it. And then about 3.5 years ago, about 3 years ago or so, my book came out. About 3.5 years ago, I had a friend, one of my best friends, his child drowned in a pool when we were on spring break together. My wife got a little bout with skin cancer, and I kind of just had 24 years of being in business and caring about money and all of these things. And I just one day woke up and said, I'm done with the business. And I sold my company to a publicly traded company out of the East Coast. And I basically retired. And I was 45 at the time. And I felt like I wanted to go on to a new chapter of my life. And, then the book comes out. And then I just kind of went on basically this last 3.5 years, just really trying to focus and talking to people like yourself, and talking to people across America and North America, whoever wants to listen, about the idea of the mental health component, of how it played a very bad role in my life. And at the end of the day, with help, it played a really incredible role with it. And here we are.
I love it. I was actually just meeting with somebody this morning about very similar things, talking about their trauma that they had in their past, sexual abuse. I don't know what it is. I work in finance, but I seem to be getting a lot of my clients right now, their financial blocks are rooted in sexual abuse. A lot of them, like probably over 50% of my current clients that I'm working with right now. I'm having that conversation with them more than the money, because the money is just an indication of what's happening underneath. And if you're struggling with money, take a look at the internal, what's going on. So I want to talk about a few things, and this is going to go a few different directions, but I think that it's valuable. Because there's a lot of people right now struggling, not just in this, but you've had experiences that I've never had. You've had experiences that I think a lot of people, depending on where you live right now, are having. So I want to touch on that, because I think there's potential light that could be shown as far as how to overcome and how to have a proper mentality about this stuff. as we're going through it. So how does politically, I know that right now we're not in from my perspective, I would say politics is the new religion. So I do think it's a religious fervor towards one upset or the other. But how does that relate to Iran? So far as I know, we aren't having bombings, but there's some pretty crazy stuff going on in major cities right now. So how does that relate to what you experienced 30, 40 years ago?
I mean, it's an incredible question and a really great observation. One of the very few people that ever asked me that question, but something that I discuss actually with my psychologist and therapist all the time, is that they're incredibly similar. So the idea is just where at some point a country, half of the people just hate another group of people and the way that they live, okay? And that part was in the name of religion, but it was still very economic and financial. So what happened was in Iran, the westernization was happening, and there's no question the rich were getting more powerful, the rich were getting wealthier, obviously, and perhaps the middle class was shrinking, and there was a lot of people that were unhappy about the way it was going, right? And with anything, it gets to a certain point of, and there's a tipping point. There's a sort of a tipping point. But it was a perfect timing that it was really used as a religious. So the religious leaders came in and said, here's the problem. It's because of their westernization. We need to go back to old school religion. And this is why you're poor. And we need to get rid of this thing and totally do this. And of course, the revolution happened. What I always tell people whenever they ask me, I don't preach this, is that America is not immune to this. You know, a lot of Americans watch TV. First of all, they watch a lot of local news and stuff like that. But I watch world news, and because I'm from Iran, and of course I hardly watch my local news, but I watch America's news and I watch world news. A lot of Americans watch stuff on TV, bombings, protests in other countries, you know, people killings and wars, and they honestly think that it's a show, some type of a reality show, that it's somewhere else and it can't be here. We're just sort of in this bubble. What they're not seeing, and most revolutions don't happen while seemingly it seems overnight, it's brewing. You know, it's a drip, 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 and it's brewing. To be honest with you, I see drip, drip, drip. I'm not sure we're going to see a massive revolution, but God, I don't know what's going to happen when this election happens. I don't care which way it goes. There's going to be people very upset. And we've lost the idea in America that this is democracy. Take it from me, America is the greatest country that exists. Coming to America was the biggest blessing that I had somehow getting here, because like you said, I came from nothing. And you're able, as long as you work hard and you put your mind to it, you actually have the ability to do that. Well, there's a lot of countries that you can work hard, put your mind to it, and you just can't, because there are constraints. There are, whether they're legal constraints, political constraints, religious constraints, you just can't do that. In America, there are none of those things. So it's very disappointing when I see what's happening right now, because I just want to shove these people into the Middle East and say, hey, how do you want to enjoy living there? Tell me, go live there for a month and then come back here and tell me how much you appreciate this. But what I am seeing is that people are just angry, and the democracy is gone, meaning the idea is that you vote, and if this side wins, then you go with it and then you have your movement and try to do your change. But a vote is a vote, and that's what the whole point of democracy. Now it's like, if you think this way, it's no good. If you think this way, it's no good, and and that is a bad recipe. So yes, to a long answer to your question, it absolutely resembles it.
Yeah, it's just something you said about that your dad tried to get not that your dad tried to get assassinated. That came out wrong. But your dad was one of the first to go, and I think that happens a lot.
It was his employees, Sam.
Yeah, exactly.
It was his employees that charged his office and wanted to take his life away.
Yeah, I think that's what I want to highlight is I was shocked. I don't know why I'm shocked, but because I'm so distant from it. I'm definitely, my sister goes to these different black and blue rallies and different stuff, and she's telling me, and I'm just like, dude, I'm honestly curious if there was people in the American Revolution or the Civil War who were just like, you know what, I'm going to make barrels and I don't care who wins. You guys go fight it out. Like, that's me. I'm a silent majority probably, but I just don't want to be involved. I like living, and I think I can like living in a lot of different circumstances. And so for me, I'm just not the aggressive type personally. So it's crazy to hear what's going on. but importantly, they bring out this guillotine in the streets, and it's like, this is, I mean, if you've studied any history, French Revolution, same thing. It's like the people who are marching, these leaders who are out on the streets marching, I honestly think they're going to be the first ones with their heads rolling. And that's maybe a little graphic, but maybe it's not, given what we're seeing in the world today. And that's where it's just like, you, as a leader and as somebody who wants to affect real change, I think it's important to be hyper consciously aware of the people around you and who are you associating with, because they can turn on you in a second. They can turn on you because they find out that you have one belief. They can love you for 90% of your beliefs or 99% of your beliefs. And the moment they find out that you believe one thing that's contrary to them or that they don't agree with, it could be over. I mean, that relationship, that they could turn on you. And the danger is they know all of your deepest, darkest secrets. They know everything about how to attack you. So not in a fear perspective, but a creation perspective. Be more intentional about who you're actually spending your time with. Be more intentional about not necessarily what they believe, but how they believe. Are they open to other belief systems? Are they willing to allow you to believe what you want regardless? And that's a personality trait. I'm curious, in all of your time as learning to manipulate, if you want to call it that, or market or create your environment the way you want it to, what have you learned about how to identify who you want in your corner and who you don't want in your corner?
Yeah, I mean, so obviously early on, while you're trying to be the most popular guy around, you put everyone in your corner, right? So you try to become friends with everybody, and that's a huge mistake. I was fortunate enough, though, as I got older, that and even when I came to America, especially my third move, I became best friends. I had a best friend named Tony. He's in my book. Then I made another guy became a best friend, my friend Andy. These are people that I've known for 40 years, and then 30 some years. So I started having a really good base. And once I started having that really good base of really close friendships, then I didn't really need this other thing. And everything else was like for marketing purposes. But now, as I'm healthier and more healthier, the less you have a need, that is trying to band-aid one of your other insecurities. And that's why we the reason we may go and kiss ass to a bad person or do something like or put ourselves in those positions is ultimately, and I can explain this, but ultimately a lot of it is out of bad self-esteem for ourselves. Because if you really love yourself and your self-esteem is good, I believe you will naturally surround yourselves with the people that are the right people, because you just wouldn't do it. It'd be like a magnet. It would repel it, and it wouldn't attract. You wouldn't attract to that type of person if you're secure. But if you're not whole and you're insecure, you're needy, and those things, you tend to have a much easier path to getting to those things. I'm not sure I answered your question.
I love it, and I'm going to point out something here, because this is what I love. What you do is you go twice a week, sounds like, or at least once a week, and you do psychoanalysis of yourself, right? So many people are actually scared to look at themselves. Yeah. And this is the thing. They will complain about the people around them. So my advice to you who are listening to this, if you find yourself in a group of really needy people or self-centered people or whatever, just as he said, it's like a magnet. You really need to turn and look at yourself and say, how am I being like this? Because I promise you, it's not the other person. It's the craziest thing, and we have to talk about this because this is a national conversation right now. Cities are literally burning because of this conversation, the unwillingness to even look and see, how am I acting just like the person that I hate, or just like the person on the other side of the gun or the other side of the fire or whatever. We're acting the same way. Most people, they have the same belief about themselves, and then it's coming out and coming to head with somebody else who also believes that they're the most important person in the world or whatever. And that's where the issue comes in. So if you find yourself in those conflicts, part of the reason why I think I avoid a lot of that is I'm totally okay with me changing my opinion, totally okay with my opinion being challenged. And I don't have any one belief other than that we should challenge our beliefs that I believe is solid, right? Other than that I should challenge myself. That's about the only thing I really believe about life right now.
Let me give you and your listeners something to think about. So in the sense that so I am also incredibly neutral. Like apolitical for the example. I've voted for Democrats. I've voted for Republicans. If you want to call me anything, I'm more of a libertarian. But I can be persuaded to go anywhere if you just give me good logic. I'll go with what I think is the best for me and the country, etc. Right? So I don't have this fixated thing. It's got to be this way. Think about fanatic fans of a sport. Okay, the fanatic. I used to be an insane fanatic Dallas Cowboy fan in my unhealthy days, and it disappeared from my body like 4 years ago, 5 years ago.
Must have been.
And I'm talking fanatic. I'm talking my friends got scared when we had games. My family was scared when the Cowboys played on Sunday if they lose or win, how the next week was going to be. I was obsessed with it. What ended up happening, what I really started learning, again, going through psychonauts and learning about yourself and peeling the onion, is that I attached this huge sense of how I felt about myself to whether the Cowboys won. Now, take that exact same idea to politics and what's going on right now. People at the core have insecurities. At the very, very core, I guarantee you. The people that don't are generally can listen to anybody and anybody's opinion and change because they're not attached to this idea. Because they attach to this idea, and the reason they get mad if you disagree is because they want to win. Winning makes them feel better. Winning hides their self-esteem and propels them falsely up. Does that make sense?
Oh, 1,000%.
That's happening on a mass scale, right? And so especially when you go and double down on a belief, then no matter what comes out of your mouth, Sam, no matter how logical it makes, you would say 2 + 2 = 4, and they say absolutely not, because they already committed that it was 5. And so no matter what happens, they've already said that. And then if they did that, they'd be wrong. And what happens when people are wrong? If they're not secure, they feel bad. They feel like they lost. I feel like a Dallas Cowboy fan who just lost the game. So think about that.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely true. Like this conversation is exactly the conversation I just had with the client. It's so funny. But along those lines, I want to bring this into money because you use money as a Band-Aid later on in your life. And I work in finance, but I want to highlight this because I think money is nothing more than a tool. And if we really are clear about money, it's nothing more than value. It's a form of value exchange that as a country, we've decided that this is what we're going to use as a standard value exchange, as a standard of value exchange we can exchange for value at any point in time and be able to go exchange it with a different form of value without having to barter. Again, for the listener, what is your currency, right? For him, from my observation, and you can tell me, I want you to elaborate on this even more in depth because you'll be able to, but his initial currency was being popular. It was attraction. It was people believing something. That was his currency. And when you're at the top of that currency food chain, other people want part of that currency. So they will do stuff for you. Speaking from somebody who has what was a leader out of fear and manipulation and then became a leader out of inspiration and love, it doesn't matter, fear or either position, people want part of that currency and they will do things for you to gain part of that recognition or currency, or to be allowed to sit next to you on the bus, or be allowed to, because you then have the control because of so that's your currency. When he graduated high school though, nobody cared. Like in the business world, people don't really care about it from that perspective. They want your currency to be numbers. And so he didn't change who he was. He changed the currency. Just like if you went from America to Mexico to Brazil to, you're just changing currency, but value is still value. And the better you understand that, the sooner you'll never be poor again, because you can always create value in whatever currency you're in. So anyways, I want you to speak to that a little bit.
I mean, incredibly, I hope your listeners really listen to what you just said. Incredibly well said. I couldn't have said it any better. In fact, to be honest with you, this is the first time I heard it that way. You're exactly right. And in my career, the value that I was getting was helping a very deeply insecure person. So what I was getting out of the value of being popular, okay, that currency for me was I was trying to solve this very low self-esteem that I had, this very insecure little boy in me that I was, okay. When that changed and you no longer can be the high school homecoming king and you go into the real world, when the banker disses you, I realized, holy shit, they will care. If I'm rich, then I got this power again. If I got power, I got respect. If I got respect, I'm back to my self-esteem being lifted, right? And that's what happened in that exchange and in that currency. Obviously, as you go in time, you realize there's reasons why these phrases exist in time, that money doesn't buy happiness. Well, people should really listen to those things and actually practice those things and not wait till it happens that it does. But it's like it couldn't be more true. Because if you're unhappy prior to money and you haven't really resolved why, you're going to be unhappy with money. It's just you're going to be able to maybe buy a car, but the car is going to just soothe you. The private plane is just going to soothe you. That's all those things. I think you have, like, my current currency is truly love and wanting people to respect me for, more importantly, for the things that come out of that book, for example, and the wisdom that comes out of the book, and the fact that they say, hey, you've made a difference in my life. I mentor people all the time. I get zero for it. I don't get paid, nothing like that. They come to my house. I sit with them 45 minutes out of my day. I do this once a week with multiple people. I get on calls like this with somebody that I mentor in Canada and here and there, and I just want to help them. And to me, I get no paid for that. I get no recognition for it. Nobody knows about it, okay? But it sort of solves this mature level of currency, and is that I don't need to show this currency off. It's the currency lives inside of me. And it's not perfect, by the way. I'm still growing. And I hope I'll be better when I'm 60 but I'm working towards that. But the ultimate currency will be things that will have nothing to do with material or things that I need somebody to know about. They'll live inside of me, and they'll satisfy that value that I needed.
Yeah, and what I think is important about that is, it's funny that you bring that up, that you mentor other people. I was talking to my wife the other day, because I've met somebody, and I meet a lot of people online who gravitate towards my belief system, and I make plenty of money doing what I do professionally, intentionally, and this was from the beginning. I found a career that I could make a lot of money in a short period of time so that I could do what I really love, which is helping people. But people who are so stressed out about money or whatever it is they need at that point in time, or they feel they need, it's so hard for them to comprehend that somebody's going to just sit down with them for an hour twice a week because we love to help. And it's not because we feel better about ourselves. It's because we've been that insecure person. We've been through this, and it's almost like we can't not help. If there's an addiction at this point in my life, I can't not help. The moment I see somebody who needs help, it's like, I just have to, right? I can't tell you no.
I don't see how you can go through life at any level of success. And I don't even, it doesn't have to be like huge amounts of monetary success or whatever, but I don't know how you can't complete the loop without teaching and help. To me, it doesn't seem possible. So, you learn, you struggle, you overcome, maybe get wildly successful, maybe you get very good successful. It doesn't really matter. Then what? For me, it has to complete something. It has to be for a purpose. You use the word intentional. Let's call it intentional. Intentionally, it has to sort of close to me. And the only way that it fits for me is that I have to give it back, let somebody else take from your knowledge. Even if it's one person, my wife always reminds me, because I sometimes get mad when, I want millions of people to read my book. But it's a very deep book. It's I got an email today from a guy who just read it. And he's like, this is just heavy book. It's just a heavy, heavy book. And it is. It's by design that way. But, I want millions of people to read it. My wife's like, didn't a guy from Alaska contact you that read it and you made a difference in his life? And I'm like, yeah. That's all it is. That's good enough. But anyway, the loop has to be controlled with helping, giving back, and that's it. I mean, I just cannot think of it any other way.
Yeah.
So good job for you.
The humor of it, I think, from my wife's perspective, is the people who see my financial success or see how I operate on the financial world, and then they get this opinion. Again, your opinions of others is more of a reflection of yourself than it is the person of the opinion. But it's still humorous when they think that my life revolves around money, or that my desires revolve around money, when in reality, the reason that I have money is so that I can take the time to do all the stuff that nobody finds out about. All the people that I help and that I meet with and I spend hours of my life with that nobody finds out about, because it's not my story to share, honestly. It's somebody else's story to share. And so it's so funny, in my experience interviewing successful people like yourself, everybody has that one thing they're giving back in. it's different for everybody. Some people it is coaching. Some people it's just helping orphans, whatever it is. Everybody has that one thing that they don't advertise that you'd never know about all the good that they're doing because they're doing it just for themselves. And yeah, and that currency, what's cool about it is once you find that currency as a listener here, once you find that currency inside yourself or that thing that drives you and like lights you up inside, that's where I think happiness comes from. There's no turning it off. There's no like, oh, well, now I'll be happy. It's like, no, like I just want to help as many people as possible. And that's my passion. And that for me, that's going to be my legacy. Even though certain aspects of it aren't publicized, the legacy will be for me that when somebody leaves my presence, they're much happier and feel better about themselves, have a better self-concept than when they came in, not because I made them feel that way, but because they chose into a higher belief about themselves when they left.
And the way you kind of said it the same thing, I'll just say it a different way because it's important. But if you're the type of person that always told everybody anything great that you did or anything good that you did, if you get to a point in your life where you start doing things that you don't have this need to tell everybody, that's kind of when you know you're onto something. That's when you know you're onto. Now, you should always tell your family and your good friends and your loved ones because they would want to know and be proud of you because that's how that part works. Because that's not braggadocious or whatever, and it's not out of an insecurity. But when you find yourself having to tell people successes and things like that, that's when you got to like sort of just be a little careful. That's when you got to put a little check mark and watch yourself a little because you're probably doing it for the wrong reasons.
Yep, no, completely agree. So I'm curious. I mean, you mentioned that there was people in your life who told you needed help. Was there ever anybody like naysayers? I mean, I've just experienced some level of popularity, probably not anything to what you've experienced, but like, it's almost like people stop telling you no, but I'm curious, who are your biggest naysayers in life and how did you silence them to move past all the crap?
Naysayers in regard to what?
So like probably when you decided to sell your company and give it all up and say, you know what, this is no longer important. I'm going to chase what's really important to me. Who are the naysayers? What are you doing? You know, who are the other people who are scared for what you were going to quote unquote lose by giving all that up rather than, because again, they get uncomfortable with you changing who you are because it then changes who they are in your story. And so who are those people in your life?
Well, it's really interesting you say that because as I think about that, I can't think of anybody unless I didn't know that I knew or anywhere in my circle that wasn't super happy for me and thought it made perfect sense in my evolution of going from where I was. They know me well, so to them it wasn't a huge surprise. It was a fast surprise. I did sort of abruptly, but that was a little bit of a surprise. But there really wasn't. If anything, it's not a naysayer. It's kind of like the opposite. If anything, there were some people that were secretly happy because then they can stop seeing me be successful. that I see more. That I see more, or people making assumptions for themselves. Oh, he got out of the business because he wasn't doing well, or he got out of business, or what. There was that type of stuff. But amongst my closest and my peers and people that knew me, everybody, it made perfect sense to everybody. They just knew my life was going there. I was, and one thing I want to just say is to your listeners and yourself is that it's not about the money. It's just, I wanted to end the chapter because I was in that business and doing it for the wrong reasons for the money. My doctor, Dr. Jekyll, and I talk about this all the time. He reminds me all the time, Parham, go be a billionaire. Go for it. Go do unimaginable things because as long as you're healthy, reasons you're doing it, because if you go do that, then you're going to give it away. You're going to find charities you're going to support. You're going to do that. You're going to do great things with that money. You're not going to go buy 14 jets and and this. He knows that, right? Because he knows me now after 17 years of therapy. So he always says, don't hate the money, okay, and being successful. Don't tie those things together. Don't tie being successful or being very wealthy or ridiculously wealthy with something negative that it only is if it's got this messed up conflict inside you. If it's not this messed up conflict inside you and it's professional and it's not manic and it's not out of despite and it's not out of insecurity, then you'll do great things with it and highly recommends that.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. I love it. So, question: if you were to focus on like one, I know this is going to be a broad question, and you're going to narrow it down. But what is like one specific habit, mindset, or behavior that you feel like you've used to create a meaningful legacy for you today, and how could we start adopting that into our lives?
Well, for me, it's really, really easy. And I taught this to all my employees. I'm a big law of attraction guy. You get what you think about. Whether you're right or wrong, whether you get it or don't, and you think of it, you're going to always be right. Meaning, the mindset that I have in every single thing is that I don't have any event that I think is bad. So my book, I talk about perfect pain, essentially saying this was a combination of perfection that got me here. Being abused, immigrant, poor, all of these things couldn't have worked in a more perfect combination to make me who I am to get therapy. So if you really look back, there's no such, I can see your face, but if you look back, there's no bad events. So the philosophy that I have every day, if today something really, really bad happens, I don't have a connotation where I say this is bad or good. I just say that's an event. That's just something that happened. Because I don't know. It could be the best thing that ever happened. It could be the best. But anyway, that's it. It's a law of attraction. I generally just believe 100,000% you get what you think of. If you truly believe and want something, you will get it. Now, it may come in a different form because you don't know how it's going to go, but you will get what you want.
Yeah, I think that's so funny. Anybody who's listened to this show or knows me knows that
that's you.
Oh, that's me. That's my way of being. It's so funny though, because sometimes people will say, well, I didn't attract this bad thing into my life. Like I didn't think about being raped and then all of a sudden I got raped. But obviously I didn't want that. I didn't think about that. And the fallacy in that belief system is that you think that like the person who's saying that thinks that I think that they got raped because they wanted to or because they thought about it. And that's not the case. What he said, what Parham said is key. It's the lens that we view what happens is as a good thing, like as something to benefit or even just a thing rather than a bad thing happening to us. We're not attached to what happens to us. We don't care what happens. We have decided inside ourselves that whatever happens, it's going to be a good thing. And so that's how the law, in my mind, that's how the law of attraction works. I've decided to, no matter what happens, to pick a good thing out of it. Like I just decided that. And so then only good things happen to Sam Knickerbocker.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
I mean, so that's a really great example with the rape. And I'll say something that's a little bit to that point, but a little bit controversial perhaps too, but I can kind of defend it. Yeah. When I study myself in psychoanalysis and I look back at the 1 year that I was being abused, I'm not saying I asked for it, but I can go through it logically and say, well, I know how it happened is that I was really insecure and I was really needy. I had not a good relationship with my parents and my dad wasn't very close and my dad was gone all the time. And so I was this very needy kid and I was very weak. So I was a perfect target. And in some ways I brought it on to me. I didn't say I want to be raped and sodomized. Okay. But my thinking, my trains of thought put that into the air that I'm needy. I need something. And in some ways maybe attracted that. Right. Mm-hmm. The rape thing is a horrible thing. And then the only reason I can say this because I have been but the other thing to think of is a simple example. When I'm driving and all of a sudden I get rear-ended, and you're like, oh, I just got rear-ended or I got in a little car accident, right? And we can say, well, someone can say, well, I wasn't thinking about getting in a car. No, it's not that you were thinking, but you might have been thinking sometimes very negatively about things. You might have been just thinking, I want to feel pain. I want to be disrupted. You know how like when they say things happen in threes where I stub my toe and then I leave my wallet at home and then I do this. Well, those kinds of things are a negative rotation of our psyche that's thinking about these feelings that are basically we think about feelings that we want. We don't necessarily think, I know I'm messing this up a little bit, but you don't think that I want a Cadillac, okay? If you say I want a Cadillac, I want a Cadillac, I want a Cadillac, the real idea is what you're really saying is I want to feel a certain way when I have this Cadillac. So you may actually not get that Cadillac, but get that feeling. Does that make sense? And that is essentially what we're wanting. Same thing when an accident happens and we're like, well, I didn't try to hit this guy or whatever. Your mind was, you had an underlying sense of feeling of wanting to be, because I've been there. I've actually had really bad runs where then I analyze, I'm like, I wanted pain. Because when something's too good for me, when I get too successful, I unconsciously invite negative things into my life only to balance them because I have this guilt feeling, this guilt complex once in a while, and that I have to fight all the time. But I naturally invite, but I quickly recognize that, oh, this is why I stubbed my toe. I wanted to feel pain. I wanted to feel hurt. I wanted to feel something going wrong.
Yeah, and sometimes you can just feel that way without anything going wrong.
It's like people that like grab a cup and like, oh, watch me drop this cup. Well, you've heard that before. Like, watch me drop this. They're carrying a tray of something. Like, oh, their mind is, watch me mess this up. Well, the fact that they just said, watch me mess this up, they've got this underlying sort of train of thought going. That is what I describe with getting hit by a car.
Yeah, no, I love it. So how I don't know how many children you have, but how did you teach your children like to think properly about money and not be consumed by money? Because I know that that's something that a lot of people struggle with. I work in finance. I feel like I have a fairly good mindset towards and relationship with money, but it is interesting teaching my now, he's 3 years old, and how do you like properly orient him to not use money as a reward, not use toys like how? Anyways, I'm just curious, when did you start teaching this, and did it evolve? How did you leave them with a healthy perspective of what money is, what it's for, and how it can be used and gained?
Yeah. So I have 3 daughters, 15, 13, and 10. The simple answer, because this is not it's a really important, it's just an important topic, right? And me and my wife have talked about this, and my friends, we talk about this, just an important topic. My simple answer to everything is just being blatantly honest with them. And what do I mean by that? Is that it's okay that my 15-year-old, my 13-year-old, my daughters know that dad's rich. They know it. They see our house and they see the neighborhood we live in, and they know what rich is. They know the cars and they know the neighborhoods, and they know they can compare. They're not idiots. So don't treat them like they're idiots, and don't treat them like little kids. They know that. So then you just have more honest conversation. You know what? I was successful. I did these things. I had some very difficult times. You tell them the entire story of how you got here, and then you're constantly telling them that I was messed up in life. Just for me, it's easy because I can tell them about my drug habits, and they know my book, and they know all my depression. So for me, it's very easy to say, this is not what made me happy. Okay. But yeah, we accomplished some things. We had some monetary rewards for it, but this is not what you shoot for. So that's for starters is my number one, is just being blatantly honest and not lying and sugarcoating things. And then also telling them and advising them that, just as you just said, that these are not what you should be striving for. I mean, strive for it if you want, but do it for the right reasons. So it's just conversation, and then your actions. So they know that you're not gloating about your things. In fact, like my daughter just turning 16, getting a car, we're buying her a used car. We're not going to go get her a nice new car and things like that. And they know about the schools. We talk about their friends at school. We go to public school, and they know that, we talk about that. Like, look, we're a little bit fortunate from a money standpoint, but that doesn't make us better. It doesn't make us any worse. We're all the same. And it's conversation, and then your actions make sure they match.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's a lot of people who like come from, I think I heard some statistic, like over 80% of the millionaires currently started with nothing. They came from bad backgrounds. And I think that's really common. And I struggle with it because I know what my background was. My parents were Pizza Hut drivers. I'm the 7th of 11 kids who went dumpster diving in the Albertsons dumpster for bread and donuts and whatnot occasionally. That's the life I lived. And now as I'm older, I've gotten to a point where I've insulated my life, like my existence, to just like what I really like. And I don't challenge that much anymore, but then I'm stuck in how do I teach my kids that it's okay to struggle and that's okay, and to learn the value of hard work without having to go live in go back to my childhood type position where I feel like I learned a lot of my lessons from. So how do we teach that without reliving it? Because I don't want to relive it.
For sure. I mean, my kids are older too, so you always talk to them about like, this isn't your money. This was my success. So if you like things and someday you dream about that you'd like to have a Manhattan condo or something like that, then make sure you do all those steps, take all those right steps now, because I'm not going to help you. Mom's not going to help you. It's going to, once you're past your college, we absolutely stress to them that they will have nothing after that. That it's going to be their lives, right? We'll take them out to dinner and vacations or something like that, but that's it. And we made it very clear with them. I mean, we stress it all the time. We used to joke when they're younger, but now as they're getting older, they know, they actually truly know that whatever that they want, and we talk about wants and needs all the time. I teach them about wants and needs, wants and needs, wants and needs. But they know that if you desire to, you care about having a nice car, then make sure that you work hard, you plan your life according to be able to accomplish that. If you want to be an art teacher, because my youngest daughter loves to bake and art, and I can see her being something very creative and maybe making a lot of money, maybe not making a lot of money, but she won't care because that's just how she is right now. But I mean, obviously she could change. But at the end of the day, we make really, really stress to them that my success is not your success. It does not transfer.
Yeah, I like that. It's good ideas. I mean, my kid's 3, but I want to.
Hey, you know what? Never too early. I started teaching my kids about wants and needs when they were very, very young. I started teaching about money when they were very young. People thought that's a bad idea, but I did. I used to teach them, and we'd go through a McDonald's drive-thru. I used to explain to them that when I give them this $5, here's what happens. What happens here? What happens with this part of the money? What happens with that part of the money? You get this bag of food, and what Dad had to do, how many hours he had to work. I mean, I've taught them those things from as young as I could probably teach them about currency. And not because I cared about money or wanted them to learn it. I want them to know how the world worked and how those things work. And maybe they say, I don't like it. Maybe I like it. It doesn't matter. But it was very important that they knew that things just don't happen. You don't just get a Barbie doll that shows up in your house just because it does. And some people can't get a Barbie doll to show up.
I guess like for me, where I struggle is I don't, and again, you're farther down the road than me. That's why I'm having this conversation with you. This is for me. So where I struggle is I don't want my kids to grow up thinking that money is connected to hours worked, time, resources, because I have moved past that belief, and for me, it's how much impact are you having on the world around you? And that's what is a fair compensation in return, not how many hours I work. Like I struggle because I don't want to tell my kids, oh, I've got to go to work for money, or I have to put in this many hours so we can pay our bills. Like, but that's how most people, because they're on an hourly pay rate, they make that association. I don't want my children to be making the association of money for time for money. Like
I totally agree with that and that philosophy. What I'm talking about, what I'm trying to teach them, but that's how people do that. You know, I'm trying to explain to them how the economic world works. Then they can choose and how they want to navigate through it. That there are people that literally go to work for 8 hours, get $12 an hour, 8 times 12 is X. They pay tax. They have this much left over, and they got to make these decisions. And you know, it's just like knowledge is power, and knowledge is even more power. Then at the younger age that they understand it, the better. One more thing I just want to add. What I was telling you about the kids thing. One of the things that my kids have seen from a very young age is that I was a huge philanthropist, and I did charity events. Like, I mean, I was one of our communities. I just did a lot of stuff for this community from a charity standpoint, not just money, but my time. Like when they were kids, we would take them to Toys R Us, and they'd buy $100 worth of toys. They think it was for them, and then we'd go over and we'd give it away. Mm-hmm. You know, we would do things like that, and so they learned from an early age that money here, charity here. I want them to know how people, you know, it's very difficult for some people to live. It's not so much difficult, but those people, you know, I just try to give them as realistic as a picture of how things work. And I'm one of these guys that doesn't force ideas on anybody. So my wife gets mad, but I don't force religion. If they want to be religious, they can be religious. If they want to it doesn't matter. I just want them to have all the knowledge. And then I want you to be your own brand. At the end of my book, I talk about this because people ask me, like, why would I write a book that tells all this stuff? It's because I want my kids to live a life where they don't have to appease me. They know I'm imperfect. I want them to make mistakes. I want them to have all the emotions that they want, do whatever that they want to do. I want them to be their own brand, unmanipulated and without me pushing them in any direction. Because that, at the end of the day, will be your happiest version. When you become you.
Yep.
On your own.
1,000%.
Don't do it for dad. Don't do it for dad. Don't do it for mom. Don't do it for society. Don't do it for anybody else but you.
Yep. 1,000%. Love it. So how could we, is there a link for your book? Is there a website? If we wanted to give you a call and say, hey, what's going on, or connect you with on Instagram, follow you?
Yeah. I mean, I'm on Instagram and Facebook. It's perfect. Look up Perfect Pain. I'm terrible with these handle things, but it's hashtag, I think it's Perfect Pain. Or you can look up my name, Parham Parastaran. My website is perfectpain.com. There's lots of videos on there, and interviews and things like that you might see in some of my videos that talk about a lot of different things. But yeah, and then of course the book is on Amazon, and feel free to contact me for any of your listeners that do it. I literally answer every single email that anybody ever sends me.
Awesome. I love it. So this next section is called Legacy on Rapid Fire. It's one of my favorite parts of the show. I'm going to ask you 5 questions. I'm looking for 1 word to 1 sentence answers. It's going to be a blast. Okay, you ready?
Yes.
Okay, so this is Legacy on Rapid Fire. Question 1. What do you believe is holding you back from reaching the next level of your legacy today?
Fear of being too successful.
Very honest answer. Love it. What is the hardest thing you've ever accomplished?
Writing the book.
What's the greatest success at this point in your life?
Writing the book.
What is another secret you believe contributes to your success?
Attitude.
Attitude. Love it. And then what books would you recommend to the Fuel Your Legacy audience? Of course, his book, but any other books that you've found helpful in your journey?
On the book Blink.
Blink. Do you know the author?
Yeah, Max Gladwell.
Okay, Malcolm Gladwell. Cool.
I answered one of them badly. I said my book on my biggest accomplishment, and it absolutely is my marriage and kids. But
hey, that's okay.
The rapid fire got me. But
I know it's okay.
It's honestly the fact that I still have a family and kids after a decade of being addicted to cocaine. So
awesome. What I love most is that you went back and changed your answer. I love it. No, a lot of people. I moved on.
All right.
No, I love it. Okay, so here's the final question. This is honestly the reason that I do this whole show, because I want the answer to this question from as many people as I can. And I want people to answer this question because I think it heals something inside of themselves and gives them focus and creation. So the question is, what legacy are you building? You're going to pretend, okay, like you're just viewing this room. You're now viewing your great-great-great-great-great-grandchildren sitting around a table discussing your life and what it meant to them and the world 6 generations from now. So what do you want your great-great-great-great-great-grandchildren to be saying about you 6 generations from now?
That he truly cared about other people just as much as he did himself. That your great whatever really cared about making a difference, that really cared about making a difference with people, and truly had this massive, overwhelming belief about connection, and that love and connection is the single most important thing in life, and nothing else matters after that. And that at the end of the day, if you find great love and great connection with human beings, you will never not be happy. And I want to just pass that on and then live that. Yeah.
Awesome. That is incredible. It's an incredible message. And I would say, and obviously you listened hopefully to this whole show, and that's in alignment with what we talked about today. That's him. It's what he's become. It's not who he started out as. I think that's crucial for us to understand that people can change. I had somebody in my office and they had lost the belief that somebody could change. And the problem is when you stop believing that others can change, and this goes back to our world we're living in today. If you don't believe that other people can change, then you don't believe that anything can get better. It can only get worse from here. So believing in the ability to change for yourself and others is crucial for happiness, I think, believing that change is possible. And he lives that. He lived it. He became it. And I love that. So thank you so much for sharing. I'm excited for everybody to hear this and for them to reach out to you and see what changed their life. I'm going to go read your book because I like the concept of it. So
I hope you do.
Awesome. Hey, well, thanks a bunch, and we'll catch you guys next time on Fuel Your Legacy. Thanks for joining us. If what you heard today resonates with you, please like, comment, and share on social media. Tag me, and if you do give me a shout out, I'll give you a shout out on the next episode. Thanks to all of those who've left a review. It helps spread the message of what it takes to build a legacy that lasts. And we'll catch you next time on Fuel Your Legacy.